It is 1490 AM WDBQ with some special programming. My name is Steve Pulaski. My next guest is a conservative political commentator and documentarian famous for films such as 2016 Obama's America and Hillary's America. His new film, Vindicating Trump, explores the polarizing figure of Donald Trump, delving into his life and leadership to challenge the narrative of him as a potential tyrant, instead highlighting the lawlessness of his political adversaries. It hits theaters next Friday, September 27th. He's the man behind it, Dinesh D'Souza. How are you today, Dinesh?
Hey, I'm doing great, thank you. I appreciate you having me on.
Vindicating Trump also has a companion book that's coming out next month. What story are you trying to tell with both of these projects?
We're living at a very peculiar time in the country. Trump is, I think, the most divisive American figure since Lincoln. And, there's one group of people that will take a bullet for him, and there's a group of people that sort of aren't too unhappy if an assassin tries to get him. So you have to go back to Lincoln to find somebody that is divisive like this. And interestingly, even with Lincoln, the division was really not over the man. It was over slavery. It was over the issue. But with Trump, it is over the man. And so I bring Trump's sort of personality and character front and center in this film. The centerpiece of it is a riveting one-on-one between me and Trump. And I ask him questions that he really hasn't been asked before, and his reaction and his response, and you can kind of see his mind working. I think it shows a side of Trump that is rarely observed in public.
This is now your third film about Donald Trump following Death of a Nation and Trump Card. What about this movie is different than your previous two?
Well, the Death of a Nation was really based upon my book, United States of Socialism, and Trump Card focused on the issues of the 2020 election. In fact, I made 2,000 Mules after that also dealt with 2020. Here, what we're talking about is, the question of tyranny, and is tyranny a problem in America? I think it is. But is it coming from Trump? The Democrats say he's a tyrant, he's an autocrat, he'll be a dictator like Hitler in 1933. The problem with all this, of course, is that Trump already was in office. So you have to look back and go, well, what did he do that was dictatorial? How many leading Democrats did he charge and prosecute and lock up? None. There were people, of course, who yelled out, lock Hillary up, but Trump didn't do it. So the theme of the film is to show that the tyrannical threat is coming from the people who are trying to get Trump. And those are people who are willing to use, number one, character assassination, number two, political assassination, which is the Russia collusion, trying to make Trump look like a foreign spy, legal assassination, that's all the lawfare, and finally, two actual assassination attempts.
He's Dinesh D'Souza. His film Vindicating Trump hits theaters on September 27th. A few more questions with you, Dinesh. You became a naturalized U.S. citizen in the 1990s. What were your earliest experiences in America like? How do you remember them? I'd be curious to know.
Well, before I came to America, my exposure to America was mainly through movies, war movies, westerns, and then I came at the age of 17 as an exchange student, and so I went to public school in Arizona. I lived with four families. I got a scholarship. I went to Dartmouth College, and then I kind of caught the Reagan bug, and I decided to focus on politics. I served as a young policy analyst in the Reagan administration in the White House in my 20s, so that was my early exposure to America, and I saw America as a place where you can start at the bottom, and if you have, you have talent, you're smart, you're willing to work really hard, you're a sort of no excuse type of guy, that there's just unlimited horizons of opportunity. And so to this day, my politics is in a way based upon that original sense of wonder that I had as a teenager when I first came to America.
You were a prolific author, still are, before your pivot into documentaries. What did 2016 Obama's America do for your career? Because that movie was huge.
It was huge. It's, I think, still the number 2 or 3 most successful political documentary ever made. And part of it was, and I've used this as the secret of all my films, is to take something that's in the public domain that seems obvious and show that it is wrong, that it is misguided, that there's a different way to understand things. So people were saying at that time about Obama, he's Martin Luther King resurrected. He's a civil rights guy. He's based in like Montgomery and Selma and all the great civil rights marches. And I was like, actually, no, he's not. His dreams are not those dreams. It's not Martin Luther King's dream. And now, so similarly, fast forwarding now to Trump, you got people today who will say things like, well, I don't like the guy, but, I like his policies. policies. Or they'll say something like, he needs to keep his mouth shut. People want, and even Republicans, they want like a new and different Trump. They want to remake and rehabilitate Trump. And part of what I want to argue in this film is, no, you don't need to remake him. You kind of need to remake a little bit your understanding of him. Why? Because in this moment, in this crisis that the country is facing, we actually need a guy with that personality, with those qualities, with that kind of courage. So Vindicating Trump that's why I went with that title. And by the way, the website is the same. It's vindicatingtrump.com, and you can buy movie tickets right off the site. Just put in your zip code or your city, and boom, all the theaters will come up. Go see it opening weekend.
Your last film, Dinesh, 2000 Mules, about alleged fraud in the 2020 election, was blasted as false on numerous points and was also disavowed by its own production company, Salem Media. What was your reaction to that?
Well, you got to remember how these things happen. There's a solitary guy in Fulton County, Georgia, who claims that he was shown in the movie, and he's not a mule, right? And so in the litigation, Salem Media issued a legal statement because the case was settled. And so Salem Media basically agreed to issue this statement. It's like a lot of these legal things where you make a concession based upon this one guy that has nothing to do with the overall themes of the movie. I mean, the movie is 2,000 Mules, and it used, cell phone geo-tracking, it used video surveillance, so very powerful techniques to show what happened in the 2020 election. And I was actually hoping there'd be some investigative follow-up. People would go talk to these mules and say, hey, do you have a good explanation for why you're out here on the street at 1:30 a.m. in the morning carrying a backpack full of ballots? Maybe there is a good explanation, but I've never heard one.
How do you predict the 2024 presidential election will go, Dinesh?
I'm worried about the election fraud, and that is a theme that is covered in this movie in a new and sort of original way. But I also think that there's a lot more eyes on the election. In other words, Republicans traditionally have been, hey, we go vote, we go behind the curtain, we cast our vote, and then we just wait and see the results. But now Republicans have realized, no, you got to pay attention to the absentee ballots, and you have to pay attention to who opens the envelopes, and you have to pay attention to if the vote is smudged, who gets to decide whether that's a valid vote or not. So I think there's a lot more attention to this issue, which is a good thing. I think that Trump has the edge. He has the advantage. And so it's going to be a close election, but I think Trump's going to get over the finish line.
Whether Trump wins or Kamala wins, Dinesh, what do you think is the future of the Republican Party? Who do you think is next in line? Obviously, because if Trump wins again, he can't run again. So who do you think winds up being the new face of the Republican Party post-Trump?
I think that is a fairly open field, but I will just say this. I don't think the Republican Party can or is going back to being the party of, let's call it, Mitt Romney or McCain or even George H.W. Bush or George W. Bush. That was the old Republican Party. So I'll say this. I think it's the leader, the Republican who grabs the Trumpian mantle and the Trumpian spirit, so to speak. That guy is going to get the nomination the next time around.
He's Dinesh D'Souza. His new movie, Vindicating Trump, hits theaters on September 27th. You can learn more and buy tickets at vindicatingtrump.com. Dinesh, I greatly appreciate your time today.
Thank you.